Hello. Can you see what I can see? Can you see it? I'll do a practical demonstration. Now, I'm sure that has enabled you to see it. That's right, it is an ancient wall, a field boundary, possibly something to do with a settlement. But here, when we get to this area of natural limestone, it is carrying on there. When you know it's there, you can see it, an ancient structure. And these hills hereabouts are literally covered in signs of ancient settlement. Now, I'm here today because of something that lies at a lower level, just down there. It's a real prehistory mystery. Probably the only thing we can say with any degree of certainty is that it is a burial-related monument. And therefore, because of its proximity to these ancient prehistoric settlements, at some stage there was a link between the two. I probably shouldn't say that it is linked to burial because there are potentially other interpretations of this thing. But the three main contender theories that we're looking at here are as follows.
Number one is that the Druids Altar, for that is its name, is a much damaged Neolithic chambered tomb. However, the late great Aubrey Burl identified it as a rare outlier of a type of Scottish Bronze Age stone circle known as a four-poster.
And perhaps most contentious of all, Theory 3, as proposed by one Edmund Bogg in 1904, is that what we're looking at here is a Druid's sacrificial altar. Burl or Bog or passage tomb? How are we going to decide? Well, we're going to take a look at it together today, and we're going to use the time bangle to see if that helps at all. If nothing else, it may help me audition to be the next Doctor Who, which people keep telling me I ought to be. Let's do this then. Well, hey, holding together the cheap, shoddy props here. Now, I've materialised up here because I just want to make this point that we're up at the top. This is where the settlements are. The Druids Altar is right the way down there in that dip, which I find interesting. I need to just give some consideration to the sort of view horizon, the solstice alignment, that sort of type of thing. Wasn't that cheap, shoddy nonsense? If I was on the BBC, I'd have a decent budget.
Considered part of Celtic and Gaulish culture, we have little actual evidence of Druids beyond the writings of third parties such as Tacitus, Cicero, Julius Caesar and Pliny. The latter gave us their association with oak trees, and Caesar their exemption from taxes and army service, plus the 20 years of study that it required to become one. The Druids themselves didn't write anything down. The reality is that the earliest classical reference to them is the 2nd century BC, so long after the construction of the stone circles in the Neolithic and Bronze Ages, to which they became so enthusiastically attached during the Celtic revival of the 18th and 19th century, and then later during the 1970s heyday of British sci-fi.
Now, this is interesting and is indicative of the challenge that you face in these sorts of landscapes. So just here we have this. Now, this could be natural. Obviously, this could be natural. But we've got sort of 2 large stones, 3 smaller but still quite large stones around it, and signs of stones in the ground. I'm not saying they are packing stones, but they might be, mightn't they? Now, this is in the same field as the Druids Altar, which I'd say is, I don't know, 10, 15 metres that way on an alignment. So that's the challenge. Is this related to that? Obviously, I don't know. And coincidentally, the car that you can see parked over the wall there is nothing to do with me. I did travel by time tunnel today.
On the modern day Ordnance Survey, the Druids Altar is just showing as a cairn, but look at all this detail on the 1852 version. Now, if it is a 4-poster stone circle, Look, there are the 4 posts. And interestingly, there is something else there. Look at that. This also seems to be showing us a really massive mound. 20 metres wide, I'd say, or 65 feet in Druids money. LTVs will know what a Neolithic chambered tomb looks like, but we've never actually looked at a 4-poster stone circle here before. A few facts then via our state-of-the-art fully analogue index file. So where dated, they are Bronze Age. They're concentrated in Scotland, where there are 54 known examples. They comprise 4 prominent posts, making an irregular quadrilateral, and they can have a mound. There are some outliers in England and Ireland, and it was in 1988 that Burles said that the Druids Altar was one.
It's quite a thing, isn't it? Now, are we looking there at a Bronze Age 4-poster stone circle, a very long way away from their Scottish homelands, or are we looking at a heavily mutilated Neolithic chambered tomb? Now, I have to admit, I came here today assuming the latter, and I'm anti-mumbo-jumbo, so I'm dismissing the idea of the sacrificial Druids Altar. But initially, my first take on this is I haven't changed my mind. I think it's a chambered tomb that has been, decapitated in effect. But let me show you around. I give you the enigmatic Druids Altar, or perhaps more sensibly, Bordley Stone Circle. Now, the first thing I want to do, always difficult on camera, but I want to show you that this structure is a mound. So I'll climb to the highest bit there. Hopefully you can see that. So the stones are not on the level ground, they are on the top of a mound. I would say a mound that has been hacked away at. Currently about 3 feet high, I would say. And that's interesting because in 1892, Harry Spratt reported on this place, and he described the mound at that time as being 3 feet high. I think the circumference he estimated was about 120 feet. Right, give me a minute just to get round here to the southern side, and I want to show you this. So you can see the 3 main megaliths up there on the top, but we've got this beauty, a very large stone here, sort of separate and detached from the rest of them. And hello, Barry, over there on camera 2. You might be able to see camera 1 on its tripod. I know you like that. And just to make that clear, Barry, you don't get the points if I point out that the tripod is in view. Let's go and have a look at these main ones. And again, Barry, no points, because I'm letting you know you can see it. And look at that, Barry. Now it's gone. Hopefully this shot will have all of the 4 of what Burl proposed were the 4 posts. Now, a 4-poster stone circle can have more stones, but it has 4 dominant stones. So here we can see one there, and one there. And then this broken stump here, he proposed is the now missing 4th one, with the possibility that this big boy in the middle over here might be the 4th and missing post. Now, I think it's worth pointing out that there are a lot of loose stones knocking around within this structure as well, particularly over there around the southeastern stone. Possibly packing stones, but I think we are looking at a hell of a lot of destruction debris in here. Now, one of the problems that I have with Burl's 4-poster idea relates to this stone. If you look at that one and that one, there's a sort of similarity in the style, whereas this one is completely different. Oh, sorry about that. Right, we need to come down here to that southern stone, because Harry Spratt in the late 1800s refers to a structure up here. He described like a dolmen, basically, 2 uprights with a lintel across the top. And our good friend Edmund Bogg, with his sacrificial altar idea in the early 1900s, was seeing the same thing, and he interpreted that as the altar. So if what we're looking at here is actually the lintel that once sat on top of two uprights, then couldn't we just in fact be looking at the remnants, the remains of one of those facades that we see classically on Neolithic chambered tombs? Or is that in fact the slab upon which scary druids once sacrificed virgins? Now, I think we need to point out that in 2007, they did some more scientific work up here. They identified a potential outer circle of stones around the outside of the mound, classic for a cairn really, if they're sort of a curbed burial cairn. But that report did come out in favour of Burl's argument that this is a rare outlier of the Scottish four-poster Bronze Age style stone circle. But let's just have a look at what this is lining up with from this end.
Let's take a look at the view then, sort of due south, and I'll put an arrow to show you. Now, as I stand here looking at that, I quite like this nook over here as some sort of alignment feature.
Looking south-southwest, I don't think that's going to show up today. The mist is coming in. We've got a lovely alignment there with the top of Pendle Hill.
And then pretty much due west, we've got these two nice summits with another little nook there for the winter solstice, I believe.
In fact, despite my initial reservations about this being in a dip, now that I'm here, I think that all the way around this monument, there is interest and there is alignment on that horizon. And it feels hugely reminiscent to me of what we see classically at Neolithic chambered tombs. Of course, that does not rule out a four-poster stone circle. They had alignments too.
In the interest of showing the BBC that I can do balance like them, Burl thought that this position on a shelf with the land dropping steeply away to the west was typical of four-poster stone circles, as indeed were the alignments.
Well, do you know what? The more I think about it, perhaps it is about druids. Imagine living up there in your farming settlement, looking down on this, knowing that the local druid, who is basically in charge of your life, is the law and everything, and he's got a big, shiny, sacrificial slab here with your name on it if you don't do as you're told. And in case the BBC are watching, I do my own stunts.
Sorry, mumbo-jumboists, but there really isn't any evidence of druidical sacrifice in stone circles, and it doesn't become factual just by going around saying it.
Since we're all sci-fi this week in the time tunnel, I thought we'd use some of our tech to see if we could create a sort of computerised digital analog type mock-up of what this may have looked like back in the day. I mean, I think I'm arguing that the megaliths weren't on show. They were buried within a mound of earth and stone, a classic sort of chambered cairn type setup. But let's see if we could, create something that sort of might illustrate what that looked like. Perhaps I will get out of the shot to make it easier. Oh, Lord. Yeah, that's the sort of thing I'm thinking. Neolithic passage tomb.
How's that for a special effect then, BBC? A chambered tomb disappearing into a black hole. Eat your heart out, the Three Doctors. Upon reflection, I have now come round to the idea that this is probably a four-poster stone circle and not a chambered tomb. The sheer roundness of the mound and the spacing of those four posts won me over. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Historic England tell us there are only 22 known examples of four-poster stone circles in England, out of a total of over 250 stone circles. Burl could see the Scottish design in the four posters of Ireland. So once again we have this tantalising transmission of ideas over great distances in prehistory.
Where's my time bangle? Incidentally, if you think the BBC should consider taking me on as Doctor Who, as many people have been saying in the comments, then please contact them and tell them. It might be worth letting them know that I can actually provide my own state-of-the-art special effects as well. Alternatively, of course, I could give their history output that much needed shot in the arm that it needs. And, let's be frank, it needs a shot in the arm, doesn't it? Big one. I could do that. Look at that down there. Isn't that absolutely marvellous? Just to the side, just next to the wall there like that. Probably at least 4,000 years old, nearer 5,000 years old, I reckon. A place I'm going to struggle to leave again. It's got a great atmosphere, but I do sense we are approaching the end of the video, and there is a highly predictable ending to get out the way. Look, I obviously don't believe that these megalithic structures are alien abduction points and that I'm at risk because I haven't got the time bangle. I need to go and find it. It's valuable, even though I said it was shoddy earlier. Have a great week. We'll be back for more antiquarian fun next week.